Hey everyone, welcome back to another ranking heroes in their own respective synergy video. In today's video, we are going to cover the Dooms. So the Dooms currently, in my opinion, are not that reliable or are not as strong as they used to be. When their accessories they have used to have the reflect rate increase right here. When they had this, Dooms were extremely OP to the point where the most normal Doom team like this one could reach up to 2000 reflect rate, and the Dooms would shine to the point where you would run even 3 Doom teams without worrying about their performance and could rely on at least 2 of them to be extremely strong. Nowadays there's a strong Doom heroes, but there is no strong Doom synergy in my opinion. The closest it gets is something built around this. So the 3 heroes, the best in synergy. So you pretty much use them together if you want. If not, you don't have to because they're great and filler heroes in most cases and can be slot in any synergy given their kits and given their synergies. So a hero like Ayushta, Behemoth and Leviathan can fit a lot of teams, even Halissa, but Halissa nowadays hasn't seen much light of the day because she's only EV hero that doesn't really have neither a seasonal synergy or a slot in the current meta, but she's still used especially in the early to mid game accounts, and it's only the late game accounts that can bench her. But even then, in the late game accounts, you can still find people using Halissa, especially if the season benefits her. And you can find a lot of people still using Merlin as well because he's actually a great hero, unless you can play around without him, which I can do most of the times. And I tend to bench him and Halissa both. So the best in synergy, Leviathan is one of the strongest hero in the game by far because of the 50% chance to reflect back the enemy skill at them, and because how frequent and how many actions enemies tend to have, they will reflect a lot of them back to themselves and basically end up killing each other instead of killing your heroes. The only way to counter this is to have enemy Leviathan on the basically have Leviathan on both of the sides, so this effect can get negated, and that's the only way you can counter Leviathan officially. Other than that, you would have to play some Avengers or something that basically die and don't care about it, so something like Mavis or Magatama would do the job, but even then it would be pretty RNG because just how strong this effect is. On top of that, she will increase the reflect rate of all allies and max HP by 50%, which paired with her runes is absolutely insane because this is applied to the base HP stats, and you will basically create insane HP pool to your dooms as well as insane reflect rate, and have insane odds of beating the enemy team. Now this is only exclusive to Leviathan because she's truly an army of a hero in single, and then we have Behemoth, which can fit a lot of teams, so she's not exclusive to Dooms. Anyway, I often do love running her outside of Dooms even, so I would play something like Merlin even in here other than Behemoth because I do really like Behemoth outside of the Dooms instead of having the feel of like wasting her here, because I do like what she brings to the table when she's on the team, such as the speed manipulation and the stun to the enemy team, as well as increasing the stats to all of your allies. That's basically her entire kit. So as you can see, she will stun enemies, she will increase the HP and attack of all of your allies, and she will basically increase the speed and reverse the enemy action order. This is really unique, and she also casts her ultimate round 1, which is also pretty nice, because she does apply in the taunt, and when taking the fatal damage, the Behemoth Beast gains invincibility for 2 rounds. This is exceptionally great at 12 stars because the invincibility will be for 3 rounds, and the beast won't die, but it will keep on stunning the enemy teams. As for the Norwegian Ayushta, she's still great, although she has slowly fallen off from PvP. She's still amazing in PvP because of the double actions she provides, but in PvP I do not think she's as a beast anymore as she was on her release because of the seasonal stats she lost, and she no longer can scale up and be a 1v9 machine as she used to. That's just my take on her and my view, but I do think that she's still the best in the Doom synergy and pretty worthy to build around. So as I mentioned, I would consider this to be a pretty strong Dooms team. I wouldn't count on 7 Dooms because 6 Dooms they are great because you do get extra HP and extra defense, which is amazing for the synergy that relies on surviving at the reflect damage. But if you compare the 7 Dooms, which has only 50% chance to increase the max HP and defense whenever the allied team is attacked, I do not like that personally, because if you compare that to other synergy bonuses such as Valianters or Ethereals, I do think that this one is lacking because it's a bit RNG, and nobody really likes relying on RNG when already playing a pretty decent chunk of RNG unit in the comp anyway. As for the relics, you pretty much always want Lance with the Sorijana Yushta, because Lance will increase the odds of her proccing her extra actions, so you will basically have more chances to do triple actions in a single round. Then you want to stun enemies, and then you want the feminine scales, because each time enemy is confused, it will increase the max HP of allies and purify them of the debuffs. So Sorijana Yushta has a built-in confuse in her kit, so they work together really nice. And as for the artifact, I would run the Doom's attack increase. Then we move on to the strong 5th hero, so you can run these heroes in any team of Dooms, they're pretty flexible, but Dahlia personally I love in Phantom Dooms. Phantom Dooms have been around for quite some time and they're still strong and still popping off, so the logic is to move Cleopatra and Dahlia to the front so they can keep on copying and buffing the other teams while relying on the Doom's reflex synergy. And then the 5th member would be basically any phantom that is included in the honorable mention. So you could use Janna, but it will mess up with Dahlia swaps because it will spam phantom. So usually you would run someone like Elmer, especially if he has legendary runes. You could run Tiamat, which will soak up enemies' attack and basically make this team win by default. And then you can use Narissa for the increased damage if you want, if she's not busy on your Avengers or Phantoms. You can use even someone like Marlena for the HP burst, or Persephone or Minotaur, or basically any hero that you have free to use as a phantom. If not, you can use Doris for this team. She's pretty amazing because she will make the reflect more deadly than usually. So you can use something like this to have 5 dooms but remain the 4 monarchs. So you won't rely on the revivals as much as you will rely on the doom reflect. But yeah, I personally tend to do Elmer in this case, especially in position 3, so he has insane damage to make up. And as for the relics, you want the Maw, so you can deal insane relic damage to the enemy team, as well as the Whirling Blade, which does insane amount of the relic damage to the enemy. It will also stun an enemy for 3 rounds or something like that, while increasing the reflect rate boost on your team. And then Judgment Blades for the execute and also for the relic damage. And as for the artifact, you want to increase the relic's damage as well as increase the stun on enemy team, which you gain from the rolling blade. So overall, a pretty strong team for a filler team. So pretty strong team in terms of World Arena for being a 6 to 9 team. Basically, you can't rely on it, but it might bring the results out and it might win some of the matchups you wouldn't be expecting them to win. That's why we have Ayushta and Sylvan in the second team basically, so this is the second team. Whilst you can still use Dahlia in the main team I mentioned, pretty much just moving Ayushta to swap with Dahlia, for example, instead of Arthur, or swap with Arthur. It doesn't really matter, the Dooms are pretty flexible, so you can do a lot of things with them. And as for the other second team, I did put Lamia in there, because there's currently a Lamia team, not currently, Lamia team has always been a case, but Lamia is pretty strong and I don't think people understand her. So basically with Lamia you want as much sanctuary around as possible. Anytime there's sanctuary triggered, Lamia has 100% chance to counteract with her ultimate, dealing 100% damage. So basically anytime you trigger sanctuary, Lamia will trigger her ultimate. So what to do with that? You basically bring everything that has anything to do with the sanctuary, which is these 2 doom relics, and then you bring out the Seraphina. The reason why we are using Seraphina is because she makes allies disable enemy shields basically, or rather ignore them with her epic runes. So enemies will basically not have shields and Lamia will penetrate them far easier. And she also has a blessing, which basically acts as sanctuary but just coded differently, or rather the same, just different name. So it's basically sanctuary while not really, so she will just disable the odds of your Lamia dying. And she's also a striker celestial, which you do like in this team. And then we also have Ophelia, which also does proc sanctuary to your team. So a lot of sanctuary going on around here. Well, what do you play for other 2 units? It's honestly pretty flexible, so I tend to do Doris in here often. and I tend to do Victoria if she's not busy on the other team because of the defense increase and defense. So, but other than that, you can use anyone. The old meta team was using Gloria, so for the third striker, although you are missing 2 Celestials, but Gloria was really nice because she would increase the HP to the frontline allies, stacking up to 15 times, so she was pretty nice. And when Gloria is alive, she reduces all enemies' damage dealt to frontline allies, so overall she would bring a lot of sustain to the Lamia, but nowadays you would like to use someone who is a Celestial and also free to be used, so you can even use someone like Madeline, which is in the normal filler team. And as for the last tier for the filler heroes, you will basically never use Helios, and you will use Athena in the early game if you are building some tombs. She's alright, but nothing really exclusive. So Fate, if in synergy, obviously Hela is the best Fate hero by far, so you will use her anywhere. The reason why we are using Cleopatra is because she's not really needed anywhere else, and she makes this team quite deadly, to the point where she even does the most amount of damage even. So she's basically pretty strong in the Dooms, increasing the attack, increasing the holy shields and all of that great stuff. So Victoria is in my opinion the worst hero for the Doom synergy. But yeah, so how else do you play the Doom? So you can pretty much use any of these heroes with Dooms. As I said, Seraphina is mostly used with the Lamia. You can also use Shang with Lamia instead of whoever I said, like Madeline, which is pretty great. You can also use Elohim with Lamia because Elohim also does trigger Awaken, which is some weird way of Sanctuary. So still pretty great pairing with Elohim and Lamia. Has a lot of chances, so 1 stack of Sanctuary, as you can see. So yeah, you can also use this kind of team with Lamia. It's pretty strong and pretty great. But yeah, that's really it, how you run Dooms. As I said, most of these Phantoms in here you can use with the Phantom teams. And any Monarch in here or Odin you can use in other teams. Odin is amazing because disabling enemy Holy Shields will make your reflect damage go through the Holy Shields that don't exist. So reflecting back will be even more deadly than before. Phantom basically goes on the Phantom team, and the other monarchs you can also run here. Another thing you can do is you can run Behemoth with someone like Isis for the infinite stuns. Basically reviving Isis, then her dying is a really nice way to constantly stun your opponents. Another way with Behemoth that you can do is run her with Astrid, because Behemoth increases the speed of all allies by 50, which Astrid converts into extra attack with her epic or other legendary exclusive runes that you can use to pretty much cheese out enemies. So yeah, that was it for today's video. Hopefully you have learned how to play Dooms, how to build them. So pretty much 2 to 3 or even 4 versions of Dooms possible. You can even run no Dooms teams basically. I personally only currently run the Phantoms version, and I split my strongest Dooms such as the Leviathan and Behemoth onto the other teams, while keeping the Phantom Dooms online. So yeah, that's it for today's video, and see you guys in the next one.